You've probably already realized that committing your work in abstract has several benefits, like building up a trackable history of your design as they change over time, creating a safety net so that work doesn't get lost, and allowing you to document your decisions without ever leaving your design tool. But committing also gives you an opportunity to streamline your design process and how you do work. Let's start with transparency. Initially, the idea of committing might make you feel a little out in the open. As soon as you click the commit button, your designs will be in abstract for anyone to view if they want to take a look. But if you think about the act of committing practically, it's actually an informal way of introducing context and conversation into your work. By making commits in abstract, you're inviting a broader group of collaborators and stakeholders to provide feedback and ask questions earlier, which means that you can push toward the best solution sooner and avoid redoing work. In essence, committing is a mindful approach to design that brings intentionality into our work and makes us better creators. Writing a commit message gives you time to pause and think about your work, to ask yourself, is this a small change or a big update? Who is it for, and what would they want to know about it? Who might be able to give useful feedback? Commits provide others with clarity around your design work and process and help the team move forward together. Next is documentation. As I just mentioned, committing comes with the opportunity to write a message and a description of the work that's being logged. In the past, designers would either have to leave their design tool to go write up some documentation in another platform, or they might not document much at all and leave it to the design review to discuss their thought process. Writing a commit message allows you to add an explanation of your thinking while you are doing the designs. It adds context for others who aren't in your head while you design, and it can be used as a reminder to yourself on why you made certain design decisions. It can also serve as a long-term documentation tool on the evolution of the product. There's also the Commit History tab. As we discussed earlier, this commit history keeps a log of how the files have changed over time. It's a literal visual representation of your design process and allows you to click through each commit to preview the progression of the designs. This can be especially useful during design reviews, as you're able to click through your changes in chronological order and demonstrate what updates you've made. This also works well for storing old designs and telling the story of the product's evolution, which can be especially useful for new team members as they're onboarding. One thing we haven't touched on yet is how committing can really change the way you think about design iterations and enhance the process of trying lots of different ideas. Here's a workflow that you'll probably be familiar with. You start with a design on one artboard, then you think, what if I move the elements around and try a different layout? So what do? You duplicate the artboard, move it over, and try something else. An hour later, you have 10 copies of the artboard with different versions of the design. That's all part of the process. The thing is, we don't usually take the time to clean up the file after we've made a decision, so our files just keep growing and growing as we refine the version of the design that we want to keep. And it also tends to get messy and hard to navigate for anyone but ourselves. Plus, those iterations are valuable, so it makes sense that you would want to keep them. With Abstract, committing allows you to store a replica of your file exactly the way it was at any given time, and you can use this to your advantage to keep your files organized and lean. It might sound radical, but instead of duplicating artboards, just work on one. Get the design to a point where you like it and make a commit. Then, don't duplicate the artboard, just keep changing it. Each time you hit a version of the design that seems like it's worth keeping, make a commit. Now you have one artboard that's been saved in Abstract with multiple different versions, and you can roll back to the version that you decide to keep, while still storing the other versions just in case you want them later. When you combine this with the ability to right-click any commit and create a new branch from that commit, you now have the ability to explore in many different directions very easily, without having massive files, without having to delete a bunch of artboards to keep your files clean, and without having to save multiple different copies of a file with different version names. The last benefit of committing that I'll touch on is the ability to restore previous commits to bring old designs back to life. We'll go into more detail on how to do this in an upcoming video, but essentially each commit adds another layer to the safety net that Abstract provides. Restoring commits is a way to go back to previous versions of your files if things change. So with all these benefits, it's pretty clear that committing an Abstract can enhance many areas of your team's design process.